Good evening, Khumo family. It's your boy Ryan Gibson. I hope you're doing well. And we are back again for another mini master here at 7:30 p.m. Mondays, right here on your online dial. Today we're going to be talking about wardrobe. Wardrobe, what can we say about it? It's what you're wearing. It's that simple. It's what you're wearing. But is that all that it is? It isn't. So as a writer, one of the things that always troubles when you're writing is what do you see them in? What are they wearing? How do they look? So when you're writing a character, oftentimes you'll describe them, tall, short, small, fat, whatever it is. And occasionally, you'll write what they're wearing. Often you'll be like the rustic or whatever, depending on the world that they're in. Maybe they're a job, they're a doctor, so they're wearing scrubs. They're a lawyer, so they're in a suit, a blue suit and tie. Maybe something about the tie is important, so you'll say something about the tie. But these things become very important and vitally important in the overall descriptor of your characters and all characters in your product, in your production, because they help for the audience, give them a visual cue about who, what, when, where, how, why these people are. Perfect example. Imagine this, you have a scene where there's a door. We're on the door, we're watching the door from the other side of the room. We slowly rack focus into the door. We're getting closer and closer to the door. The door bursts open and in pops this woman. She closes the door, she turns on the light, and she's wearing a dress with blood all over it. What do you think? I'll let you guys take a second with that. Took a second? Good. In that moment, you might start running through your head going, oh, she's been attacked. She attacked somebody. Clearly somebody died. Maybe she shot someone. Maybe she was near someone being shot or killed or stabbed. Something happened. Now, exact same scene. Rack focus, we're pushing in, we're pushing in, we're pushing in. The door opens. Same woman comes in, closes the door, turns on the light. She's got blood on her, but she's wearing scrubs. Now the assumption is she's at work and that maybe she's a surgeon, and that she left work without changing like you're supposed to. So she must have had a traumatic day. These are all the things that you could help to convey with the wardrobe. So when you think of wardrobe, people always go, wardrobe's not that important. Well, let me give you a perfect example. Many of you have seen the movie The Devil Wears Prada. So The Devil Wears Prada, I remember there's a particular scene in it where the main character played by, what's her name again? I always get the young girl's name wrong. Anne Hathaway, thank you. Anne Hathaway, we were just talking about it earlier. So Anne Hathaway's character comes in to Miranda Priestly, for whatever reason, that name sticks. So that's the name that sticks in the whole name, first and last name. Miranda Priestly, played by the incomparable Meryl Streep. And she walks in and she's wearing like a dingy sweater and I think jeans or something, right? And she's supposed to be Miranda's new, and Miranda's this upscale, fashion icon at a fashion magazine. And she's supposed to be temping as her temporary assistant, and she walks in, and Miranda and if you ever get a chance to watch this scene, you want to talk about acting, Meryl Streep looks at her up and down in such a way that if she was looking at you up and down, you would check yourself. You would feel like immediately insecure. And then the girl says something like, is there a problem? And she goes, no. And walks away. And immediately you're like, oh, there's a problem. Because everything she had on was wrong. And later she has a whole conversation with the character telling her about how she doesn't think it's important, that fashion's not a big deal, fashion's not a thing. And immediately she gives her a literal, beautiful dialogue of monologue. If you're looking for something to do, as an actress, if you want a piece of exquisite monologuing, that's one of the best. I don't know if you can pull it off. Meryl Streep did it, but she did it so well. You talking about shade? You talking about being able to give somebody educational shade? That was educational shade, where she not only educated her on the importance of fashion, but made her feel this small in the process. So you want to look at that. And apologies, I'm getting over a little bit of a cold. You might still hear a little bit of the sinus. So I'm continuing to battle it. So apologies if I sound a little nasally. I can feel it. But anyway, so in that scene, that moment plays out. One of the takeaways of that scene is the reality of how important and what role fashion plays in just average everyday life. But then elevate that to what role does fashion play in your movie, in your TV show? Think about it. In that movie, their budget initially was very low. They didn't have a huge budget for clothing, but the show was about clothing, really expensive clothing. So in order to get that clothing, I believe the wardrobe department had to make a pact with the devil themselves and meet with a bunch of different people in order for them to get free stuff to put on both the Miranda Priestley character of Meryl Streep and the Anne Hathaway character. Because if you watch it, spoiler alert, when she transitions from the frumpy girl with the sweater, the purple sweater, whatever color it was, to the fashionista girl on the other side, every bag she's wearing is like $20,000. These are $20,000 bags. So by the time they were done, the budget for just the wardrobe for that movie was over $1 million, which it was never supposed to be. But they didn't spend $1 million. That's what the actual number would have been had they had to spend it. They were gifted a lot of things, and then they just gave people product placement to be able to use it. So it's super important. So when you think, I've done this, I've been guilty of this myself, where you literally say to an actor or an actress, let me see what you have. Let me see your wardrobe. What do you have in your house that might fit? And sometimes you get lucky, and they'll pull something, and you'll be like, oh my, this is perfect. But more often than not, you're dealing with people's personal wardrobe, their personal brand, their personal style, and they may not have what you need. That's when you're gonna have to find a way to spend something. Because the reality is, you've got to go out and get them clothes that fit the world. Now, if your story is about people walking around being normal, then by all means, you should be fine. But if your story in any way takes us into the world of the rich and powerful, or into the world of the fashionistas, or club scene, or a ballroom, then your guys are gonna have to dress up. Your ladies are gonna have to look good. If it's a prom, people gotta look a certain way at a prom, and not everybody's gonna be able to have a prom dress sitting at home that you can just tell them to bring and wear again. Some people do, most people don't. So you wanna make sure that you're covering yourself, that you've made sure that you've made smart choices to ensure that you're covering for the potential of those clothing. Because the clothing, what they say, clothes make the man, clothes make the character. The character's already, the person who's playing the character, the actor, knows who the character is on the inside. We, the audience, do not. So as I showed you in the scene where you have the woman, same woman, regular clothes, walks in, blood all over her clothes, same woman walks in again, blood all over her scrubs. Those are two completely different moments. Same exact scene, same exact energy. Two completely different moments just by changing her wardrobe. So you want to make sure that you're being smart. You also got to be smart in terms of when you're filming. This is important for your DPs and for your directors. So if you're directing a scene and your main character is wearing black, which almost should never happen, but if that's what you're doing, then what should everybody else be wearing? Not black, because that's how they stand out. Pay attention to the next time you're watching a movie. If the main character is in a dark or drabby color, everybody around them should be in a brighter color, so that the dark and drabby color stands out. Vice versa, conversely, if your main character is in a bright color, anyone else wearing bright colors are over there, because you want us to find them. We have to spot them. Especially in those scenes when you see characters walking down streets. They do them all the time. They're walking down the street, going to work, and there's always on purpose, everybody around them is either darker or lighter. Think about The Matrix. Remember the scene in The Matrix? When Neo's just learning how the Matrix works, and he's just returned back into the practice simulation, and he's walking down a New York City street, and it's a busy street, everybody's wearing all black, and then the woman walks by in red, and he turns to look at her, and when he turns back, the guy has the gun pointed to his head. These are all important things to understand. It's as important as Dorothy's ruby red slippers. She has the ruby red slippers. Nobody else should have ruby red slippers. Or else what's the point of the slipper if everybody's wearing them? It's the scene where they've just robbed the bank and they walk out and then all of a sudden they put a mask on and then everybody around them puts the same mask on, because that was the setup. That was the gag. And it turns into a mime review, because that's how they're able to escape. Because now the cops can't find them. In a sea of mimes, you're just another mime. It's so, so, so important. You don't think about it. You really don't. Think about, I'm trying to think of give me a movie, any movie. This is one of your favorite movies. I'm asking one of the guys off camera. I'm just putting him on the spot right now. Give me a movie because I want a quick moment. Hold on. What do you got? What do you got? What do you got? My producer. Scarface. Ah, God. God, you're making me think. That's way back when. Yes. Think about everything that he wore in that movie, from when we met him to when he became. His clothing transformed as much as he did. Scandal. You guys remember Scandal with Kerry Washington, the TV show? When we first, go ahead and just watch season 1, the pilot. Just watch the first episode. What she's wearing in season 1, white. She's wearing white because she's a white hat. She's here to save people. Watch what she's wearing in season 2. Still white, some black in it. Season 3, not so much white. By the time we get all the way through to the end of the season, Carrie's not in as much white as she was when we first met her. She would be wearing the white dresses. She'd wear a dress with a white inlay. It would always be some big pop of white because it was always a nod to her being this hero. But slowly that went away and slowly she changed. You see that in a lot of characters. Some characters will go from wearing clothes that are very soft and loose to clothes that are very structured and hard and rigid and pulled together and tight. These are to help you. Breaking Bad, he starts off with what he's wearing, like a school teacher, dad jeans and the whole thing. And then it becomes darker, edgier. Even his haircut changes. The bald and the goatee, it's all part of the same thing. Literally, the wardrobe is costume. It helps us, the audience, meet people where they are. So if we walk into a scene and everybody's wearing cowboy hats and boots, then more than likely we're in some type of a cowboy show, right? That's more than likely we're watching a cowboy movie, we're in a cowboy scene, it's a whole cowboy deal. Then if one guy walks in wearing fishnet stockings and a dress, and it's a dude, then we're like, where are we? You have to ask the question because it changes everything. If one person comes in out of the world and throws the world upside down. So these things are all important. So don't ever think for a second that the costume, I've said it before, I'll keep saying it again. It all matters. This is a collaboration. All the departments are working together to help tell the story. What your character is wearing the first time we meet them. Are they wearing a hoodie? Is the hoodie pulled all the way down? Like oh, did I just knock off my sound? I'm good? All right. In iRobot, I think the first time we meet him, he's wearing a hoodie. That's the first time we meet him. He has a hoodie on. We can't really see his face. Not iRobot, Mr. Robot, iRobot. Mr. Robot. First time we meet him, that's what he's doing. And then later we slowly peel it back and we get to meet him. The same thing is true for even if you think like superhero movies. Think of Iron Man. Remember in the first Iron Man movie? He didn't actually put on the Iron Man suit until way into Act 2. He didn't have it, but before that, we watched him be the man in a nice tailored suit. Then he was in the cave, then he was escaped, then he put on the first suit, then he escaped, then he was trying to figure it out, trying to get his life back. But even the way he was dressed when he was trying to get his life back was important because he wasn't sure who he was anymore. So he didn't see him walking around in the suit because the guy in the suit, he wasn't sure if that was him anymore because the guy in the suit is the same guy who sold weapons, apparently, to the bad guys as well as the good guys. He was an equal opportunity weapon seller. And then that came back to bite him on the ass. So you have to remember the clothes, even if it's not written on the page, which sometimes it isn't. There are many times I've written scenes and I don't write what the character's wearing, unless it's super, super important to the scene. You very rarely are gonna write it. More often than not, you're just gonna let it happen. Think about, as an iconic transformation, Grease, the movie Grease. The Sandy character, she's wearing the dress, the poodle skirt, throughout the majority of the film. And at the very end, she throws on the leather pants, got the hair pumped up, the tight jacket, the whole deal. All of a sudden, she's a bad girl. And we buy it because of the outfit, because of the wardrobe. So it's so important. But by then we've already been, and then remember, say conversely, the Danny Zuko character, he's wearing, I think when we see him, he had taken off his leather jacket and was wearing like a Letterman shirt, looking very much like a preppy in an attempt to be less, to get her to be with him. All of these things are choices that we made. Look at how they dress Rue. Is it Rue? Is the name of the character Rue on, I always forget her name, on Zendaya's TV show on HBO. Huh? Euphoria. Is it Rue? Is it her name? I think it's Rue. Right? It's Rue, right? Thank you. So Rue, when we meet her, she's always dressed in oversized baggy clothing. Because again, we're trying to say something as wardrobe. She's not comfortable. She's hiding. Not comfortable in her own skin. Hiding. Stuff that she can throw, cover up over her head. It's always that vibe. At some point, we would have to see her. If we see her get rid of it and pull back a little bit, then that would mean she's finding herself. She's beginning to find herself. So pay attention to when you see how characters change from season to season. Even Sheldon Cooper on The Big Bang Theory, who he was in the beginning of the show and who he becomes at the end. While his clothing, for the most part, on that show doesn't change, the way he goes about dealing with his life and environment does. But it's one of those things where on a TV show like that, you want the consistency of his character. You know who Sheldon is the moment you see him. The moment you see him standing with his Flash jersey and then layered underneath, and then Howard comes over with his turtleneck in a fake turtleneck, living in freaking LA. And he's wearing a fake turtleneck, a mock turtleneck. Really, Howard? Really? But what does that tell you about him? And then you see Raj, and he's wearing his layers as well, and you're like, oh, Raj, who dresses you? And then at the very end of the season, didn't they change his whole outfit? They let him stop curling his hair so he can have straightening his hair, because they'd been straightening his hair, and they let him have his hair curly. And he said, and then they changed his outfit a little bit, because he was trying to be like Howard, and he decided he wanted to try something different. These are all interesting things that happen, and they all can be attributed in some form or fashion visually for us as the audience towards something that they wore. These little changes can help us understand characters and what they're about, what they're into, what the characters are striving for, what they're reaching towards. So it's important to not just gloss over what your character is wearing. It's so important. I just talked about it for like 20 minutes. That should tell you something. All right. I hope that you guys got something out of this. I hope that you're dressing your characters well and making sure that they look the way they should look, talk the way they should talk, feel the way they should feel for us, the audience. I appreciate your time. And again, thank you to DeBarber Hair Salon Studio, DeBarber Hair Studio, for keeping me nice and tight. I always leave there with a smile. Make sure you guys check them out. DeBarber Hair Studio here in Jabarone in Game City. They are the best. Thanks to you, CJ. Thank you, Becky, again, as always, for your guys' support of Khumo Studios and your support of all that we're doing here. So again, to the rest of you guys, we'll see you next week. Same time, same online channel. 7:30 Mondays will be an all new one, and I can't wait to hear your feedback. I definitely look forward to doing at least one of these where I just respond to just feedback. So please make sure you give us your feedback so that we have something to give feedback to. So as always, remember to tell a friend, to tell a friend, to tell a friend, to tell a friend, to join us and check out what we're putting out on the airwaves, so that hopefully we can educate, entertain, or edutain and help you to learn something you didn't know yesterday. Thank you all. Have a good evening. Good night.